Okay. Hey everyone, thanks for joining this week's Draftbit office hours. We're live streaming to you from our home offices. This is Nick with Draftbit. I'm the head of growth. And with me today we have Donald, who's the co-founder and VP of engineering at Draftbit, and Sharath, who's our product evangelist. Say hi, guys.
Hey everybody.
Hey everyone.
So one thing I forgot to do in the last live stream was ask everyone where you're from. So I'm in Chicago, and guys, tell them where you're currently located.
Yeah, I'm usually in San Francisco, but right now I'm in snowy Wisconsin.
I used to live in Chicago, but I recently moved to Minneapolis. I miss Chicago.
Nice. If you're watching on our live stream channels, feel free to put in the chat where you're from. Say hi. It's always fun to see what corners of the world our Draftbit friends are joining us from. Cool. So in this edition of Office Hours, what we normally like to do is start with what's new at Draftbit. So just show you some of the things that we've been working on, then do some Q&A and see if folks have any questions or they want to see us do anything with Draftbit. And then if there's any time left, then we can kind of continue on a community build that we started last week. So yeah, if you have questions for the team, if you are, if you want to see something, if you have a question about Draftbit, please feel free to just pop your question in the chats on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and we will get to them. Cool. Awesome. All right. So Donald and Sharath, I'm going to have you guys keep me honest here because I know we have a bunch of stuff to show and I may forget something. So just remind me if I forget something. All right.
Awesome. We got your back.
Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to switch to like a presenter view here. And all right. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
All right. So the first thing that I wanted to show everyone, we put a little preview video on our YouTube channel as well as posted it on Twitter yesterday. But we have these new things called simple layout components. And you can find simple layout components by opening up the component picker in your Draftbit app and scrolling to the layout section. And there's 6 of them. There's a row, a stack, a spacer, a center component, a circle component, and a square component. And basically what these simple layout components are designed to do is give you like much simpler access to these basic layouts without sort of bogging you down in a bunch of the really like low-level configs that Draftbit exposes. And so I'm not going to go through every single one, but for instance, a row component controls the layout of these 3 squares that I have at the top of my app. And so I can do things like change the alignment from center to start, and it should align them all at the top of a row. And then I can maybe center them horizontally. And so now they're all aligned top center. But like the key thing to know about simple layout components is that that's all you can do with them. If you want more complex layouts, if you want to control, you know, width and height or how they flex to the screen, things like that, you would basically want to use the view component and not these simple layout components. So questions from anyone about simple layout components? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep powering through. The next thing that we expose that's brand new in Draftbit is, this is a kind of a pretty handy shortcut, but let's say we had a text component in our row here, and we've made it a little bit easier to edit things in Draftbit. So the first thing that we've made easier to do is that when you double click this text component, it opens up the data tab, and now I can change hello world to hello Draftbit live stream attendees. And so you can't yet like select text in the canvas, but we gave you the next best thing, which was we made it really easy to update text very quickly. Likewise, we also made it really easy to change component names. So as opposed, you used to, if you wanted to change the name of this text component, you'd have to select the component, come over here to the configs tab and change the name. But now you can simply double click it in the layer tree, change this to live stream text component, and it updates. So that's a fun little shortcut. We're just, Donald is leading a team that's trying to make a bunch of these really small things in Draftbit simpler and more joyful to use. Another big new thing that Draftbit has released is we now give you the ability to, when you delete things, especially if you delete them by accident, you can restore them. So there's not full undo redo in Draftbit, but there's the best part of undo redo, which is, so let's say, for example, I delete this live stream text component. There's a couple of ways to get it back. The first is I can just hit Control-Z to undo that delete, and it comes right back to me. The other thing that you can do is when you delete components, I can click this little trash on, and now I can see the component in my trash, and I can restore it directly from my trash can. So this works for components. It also works for screens. So if I were to delete this complex layout screen, I can undelete it by Control-Z, or I can go retrieve it from the trash can and restore it to my app. So for all of you who were experimenting and playing around with Draftbit and you accidentally deleted like a view that had a bunch of really important things inside of the view and you couldn't get it back, now you can. What else should we tell the folks about Donald and Shroth?
Good question. What else have we released over this past week? Got a list here somewhere.
By the way, Shroth sends out a weekly newsletter on Friday. So Shroth, that's coming out today, right? So if you miss any of these updates in our live stream, you can always read about them in the newsletter. As long as you're a Draftbit user, of course.
100%. We are going to cover up most of our updates in the newsletter with explanatory videos / links to guides we have. So you're going to get everything in the newsletter. But I think, Nick, do you want to show the double click to rename component?
The double click to rename component?
Yeah, so if you just if you want to rename a component in the layout trees right now, can double click on it.
I think I did just demo that. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Even the text is can be double clicked, and can change that too.
Yep.
I think like one thing we could touch on as well is, Nick, I know you mentioned we've got Control-Z now, which I think is a good addition and something that people have been asking for, but we're spending some time just focusing more and more on keyboard shortcuts just to try to make the development workflow a little more seamless, a little faster. So we've got arrow keys now, so just using the 4 arrows is supported. And then land in soon is copying and pasting, which is going to work across screens as well as the delete key. So and if there's any other ones that people want, we definitely love to hear about them. We're just trying to make things as intuitive as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Don, like today, which keyboard shortcuts? I know Control-Z works now in the builder. What other keyboard shortcuts do folks have? And I have this keyboard shortcuts menu in my builder, but I think that's not a user-facing thing yet.
We, I think, either just released that or are about to release that today. So,
so we could
I think the arrow keys should be accessible now. I guess we haven't released it yet, but the arrow keys will work. So up and down to navigate around the tree, and then left and right to expand and collapse components or jump up to the parent component. That should be out there today in another hour or two here. And then as well as Control C, Control V to copy and paste components around your app.
That's sweet. I'm just going up and down on my keyboard here. That works really nicely. Oh, I think. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because we try not to announce things before they're available, but there's a couple of things that are going to be released like Monday, Tuesday of next week, and we don't get to talk about them until Friday. So I'm just going to give you a little sneak preview. We've made this data menu, or will have made this data menu a lot easier to understand and get around. And so if you're looking to bring data into Draftbit, that whole experience, it still functions the same way. You still add services and then add endpoints and then use those services and endpoints in components in your app. But the process of setting those things up is going to get dramatically easier. So be on the lookout for that. What else is like in it? I'm trying to think now.
Also, now that we're talking about like what's coming, I want to talk one thing specifically. We're going to like build soon an example screen which will have all the simple components, so that you can like instantly hook it up to your app and use it, like change the details soon. So that's something that's coming as well.
Sweet. Sharath, I know we were working on some new screen designs. Are there? Do we have some new screens to talk about?
Yeah. So we have 3 new screens which we recently released. One is more of like a team profile, and one is the author's profile right there. It's all powered by Draftbit's example data. And the last thing is we did a dating profile screen, so that's there as well. Yeah.
Well, that's a nice profile screen for people who want to add a profile screen to their app. That one looks really nice too.
And there'll be a bunch of new screens that are coming in next week. A travel planner, and a screen with simple components, and a restaurant list as well. So there are more and more screens will be like popping up in the builder, coming weeks.
That's great. And these are all data enabled, right? So yeah, they already have fetch components and they're all pulling in example data.
Yep. They're all data enabled. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so we got a question from Ryan. Ryan asked, will more access be available soon? So Ryan, you're in luck. I forgot to mention this, but Draftbit's now in open beta. So if you signed up for the Draftbit waitlist and you did not receive an invite yet, first of all, that shouldn't have happened. But if it did, just go ahead and go back to draftbit.com and hit the request access button again, and you will be taken directly into onboarding. So you should be able to sign up without receiving an invite in Draftbit today. Other questions? Okay. All right, well, I'll keep an eye on the chat channel, but maybe we started. Yeah, no problem, Ryan. Happy to help. So we started last week working on an Airtable form, or a form in Draftbit that submitted data to an Airtable, and so we had some issues with that, setting that up, and it took like a bunch of members of our team to realize that I had a letter O instead of a 0 in my service URL, and we fixed that after the live stream had ended. I subsequently published a video to our YouTube channel that shows you how to set up post request to Airtable for real, And the docs now reflect this as well. So if you're also trying to create a post request to Airtable, and maybe you got stuck or you made the same mistake as me and put an O instead of a 0 in your service URL, check out that video on YouTube. It's like 5 minutes long. And we also have Airtable docs in docs.draftbit.com. So now that we have that working, I guess I'll bounce back over to my app, and maybe we could just continue working on that. And please keep sending your questions in if you have them, and one of us will answer them. Okay, where's my... Okay, so the idea behind this screen was that I have this form where I can tell my database these coffees that I try, and then pick different characteristics of the coffee from these drop-down lists, and then rate the coffee from 1 to 5, and then add it to my list of coffees that I have tried. And so I think where I left off was, let me just make sure that I have the options. Noise. Yeah, it's funny. I think this is actually still a bug in Draftbit. We may have a ticket for it, Donald, but I know that the options are not showing in the UI, but I believe that they are showing in the code. Let's see.
Got it. Yeah, we can get that fixed.
Yeah, they're in the code. But anyway, so there are form field selections behind this, and so I'm going to go to my Airtable and see. Come on, Airtable. It's Airtable.com, not Airtable.so, so I don't know why it's moving so slowly. It's a little Notion humor for you this morning. So yeah, I think what happens when I coffee. Oops. All right, I'm going to run this in live preview. Okay, whoops. Ah, I see. Anyway, there's a bunch of things wrong with drop-downs. When I add this coffee, it creates a new entry in database. So this works, and so I'm pretty happy with the functionality, aside from a few bugs with drop-downs that we got to fix. And so I think the next thing that I want is I want a way to I want to create a screen that allows me to display all of the coffees that I have submitted into my database, ordered in chronological order. So what I try to do when I create new screens in Draftbit is I usually try to first go and find something that looks reasonably like the screen that I'm going to build, so that I don't have to spend the time mucking around with low-level UI stuff. And maybe I kind of like this new screen. So this is kind of interesting because it's got a search bar, which I'm not going to set up right now, but then it also has these really tight rows for all the list items. So this is a data-enabled list screen already. And then it also allows me to, in the future, maybe utilize the touchable that's on these rows to navigate to get more info about the coffees that I created. So this one looks pretty good. I'm going to add this to my screen, or add this to my app rather. And oops, I added it twice. So this, by the way, is not. This is not Draftbit being slow. This is my computer being slow. I'm running the live stream in my browser and running Draftbit just has it completely bogged down. Draftbit hooked me up with a nice slow laptop. Okay, so this looks pretty cool. It looks like each row already has Dribble wrapped around it, and it's already set up pretty well. So all I really need to do is my fetch request from Airtable to bring in the data that I want to display in this list and replace this placeholder fetch with the fetch that I want. So I'm going to go into the data tab, and I'm going to go into my coffee Airtable and create a new endpoint. And I'm going to call this list. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Draftbit's docs.draftbit.com. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom to where we have the integration guides and click Airtable. And then I like to use this table contents menu on the right-hand side. So what I'm looking for is fetching all records from an Airtable base into a list. So it's the first guide. I already have, by the way, if you're using Airtable with Draftbit for the first time, you're going to need to follow the Connect Airtable Draftbit setup steps first before you can use these individual endpoint setups. So create a new endpoint. Is it as easy as just testing? Ha, that was too easy. Okay, so I guess fetching a list from Airtable is a little bit too easy, but here's all of my coffees, and as I'm looking at them, I'm seeing that they appear to be listed in reverse chronological order from newest to oldest, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like from newest to oldest. But what I have here in my Airtable is I have a date added column that's just generated by Airtable. And so just to be safe, what I want to do is I want to sort on this date added column just to make sure that I'm always that I'm controlling the list that gets returned. So the first thing I'm going to do is I may need your help on syntax, Donald. So I think I want and no question mark. Is it underscore sort or is it just sort?
Good question. Let me look.
Whenever I have trouble with syntax for REST API, I always just go to Draftbit's example service. So that's example-data.draftbit.com. And I think what I want is I want this underscore sort equals date added underscore order equals descending. Let's try that. Let's just see what we get. Okay, so at least I got an okay response. But since these were already in descending order, I'm going to try ascending just to see if, just to stress test this. Yeah, see, so that didn't work. Let's see if Airtable has any hints.
By the way, Nick, Andrew says it's very cool. Just wanted to highlight that.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through their documentation now to see if I can find the param that we have to pass. It looks like it's just sort. I don't think there's an underscore.
Didn't like that. It does like the underscore, but I don't know if that's just because it's ignoring it or.
Yeah, right.
I'm looking at the.
It's hard because some of the documentation refers to their API and some refers to the Airtable formulas.
Yeah.
So it's hard to differentiate.
Oh, they don't call it order, they call it direction. All right, let me try these two.
Yeah.
Let me try these two query parents. So
yeah, I see that now too, direction.
Now, do we think it's I'm going to try ascending since descending was the default. It's still returning the same. I don't know. Do I need this whole string in my URL, Donald?
I would try it. Yeah, I would try it. Specify the field and the direction. I do have to jump to another call, so I have to bail. Sorry, but
Right.
That seems like the best bet.
I'll try underscores first, and then
yeah, and then the encoded. I'm sure if you keep tweaking some combination of those, it'll work.
oh, there it is.
Oh, perfect.
It's not underscore, and it is encoded. Okay, so the syntax is this encoded sort and this encoded direction.
Perfect. All right, guys, I got to hop off, but looks like you got it.
Yep. Appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks, Donald. I got to hop off as well, but this is really cool. Stay tuned, guys. We have some amazing updates coming next week. Like we said in the call, Nick has been killing it on Twitter and through the live stream. So you'll see, you'll hear about everything, coming next week's. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do is I just wanted to return a max records. And the reason why I want to do that is because I don't want to fetch once this gets really long, if you are, actually, maybe I won't do this. It says the default is 100, so that's actually not unmanageable. Anyway, it's good practice to have a max records or a limit in your query, because if you're returning thousands of results in a list, it's going to not only bog down your app, but it's going to bog down Draftbit, because Draftbit is live fetching your data. But since I only have a handful of results, I think it should be fine. Let me just test this one more time. Oops. Sweet. All right, and so the last thing I'm going to do is point the new endpoint, new service and new endpoint at the list. That red screen, I believe, is normal because I have a bunch of mismatching data. So for the image component, I actually need to, I don't have images, so we're going to use static images. Text components, field tab name, and this other text component. Let's make this all right, it's a little basic, but basically what I have here is this image is just a placeholder image for now. At some point, I'm going to need to figure out what I want to do with images for the coffees. And I will, whether it's like giving the user of this app the ability to take a photo that they attach to their coffee, or maybe I'll have like a predetermined list of coffees that are already uploaded into my database, so like a master list. And so every coffee is going to already have its own image associated with it. But in practice, it's always good to have a fallback in your app anyway for images. And so this is my fallback image. The first text component just has the name. And then I just make the second text component the rating that I gave it. Obviously, like, these numbers don't have much context. And so I think what I'm going to do here is just modify this UI a little bit so it says like 4 of 5, 3 of 5, 2 of 5, etc. And the way that I do that is I'm just going to add another text component. No, I'll just duplicate this one actually. This is going to be a static text component. And then I just need to mess with the layout a little bit. So that actually be a good opportunity to use our new simple layout components. So I just added a row. And then I put both of these text components. that, I'm even double clicking to edit the names. This guy needs a little padding. It's pretty cool. That looks pretty good. One more pixel. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. It's a very simple list display from Airtable. Okay, I'm just looking at the stream here in the comments. So William's asking, every time I load my app or a page in it that hasn't been cached since it's open, there's a very small delay as it loads all the data. Is there a way to add a loading screen for each page that disappears once all the data loads in? Okay, so I'm pretty sure that the answer to that question is not right now. You would probably need local storage to accomplish that. I'm trying to think if there's a way. Like you can in your app. Maybe deprecate this. You can set loading flags on your data-enabled components in Draftbit, but since we don't have state management and we don't have local storage, there's no way to kind of create the logic that says, you know, basically wait until the data is loaded and then display the screen. However, all that being said, I'm almost positive that there's probably a way to do it with a custom function, because custom functions are sort of are given to Draftbit users as a way to add in actions that Draftbit doesn't yet support. And so creating some logic that says like wait until data is loaded and then display something different sounds like it could be done with custom functions. So here is my request to you, William, is to reach out to our support team and see if you can mention that I brought this up on the live stream. See if the support team is aware of any libraries that you can bring in as custom functions into your app that kind of do the behavior that you're looking for that I kind of explained. So yeah, that's going to be my answer to that question. And I can, by the way, I can totally see the need for that, right? You, especially on slower connections, you don't really want for your users to experience a blank screen for too long while that data is loading. There may also be ways for you to make sort of the payload of that request more lightweight. So using things like limits and max results on your queries so that you're not fetching like a ton of data all at once and trying to display it. Okay. So now that I've got this really like crappy list of coffees that I created in my app, I think the next thing that I'm going to do, since we still have time, and by the way, keep the questions coming, love to have them, is to set up my item view for my coffees. So I want to basically be able to click an entry in this list and to see more information about that coffee. So In order to do that, I need to set up past navigation parameters into an item view screen. So first thing I'm going to do is go to my screen library. Again, looking for a screen that what I'm trying to build. And I'm actually thinking, as funny as it sounds, that maybe I want this dating profile screen. Gives you a good image, and then you can display a bunch of information. And maybe down the line, I will want to have more like links to learn more about the coffee, things like that. So the next thing I need to do is set up my get individual coffee endpoint. So I will go into here, go into coffee. By the way, I don't know if you caught that, but when I added this new data-enabled screen to my app,
Cool. Okay. Shout out to Firefox for just completely shitting the bed right in the middle of that live stream. I think we're back. If you're watching this live stream on Facebook or YouTube or something, can you just let me know that you can still see me and hear me? I'm not sure if what happens when I quit out of a live stream like that. If I just get booted out. Seems like it's still working. Okay. Man, that's really annoying. Thanks, Firefox. Like I said, I don't know if you noticed this, but because I added this new data-enabled screen to my app, and the fetch is coming from our example data people endpoint, adding the screen to my app just automatically created the service in my app for me. And so, you know, I'm soon not going to need this people data service, but it's nice that I have it because I can use it for other screens in my app if I was building a people app. So going into my coffee Airtable, I'm going to create a new endpoint. Get coffee item. And now I need to find the syntax to accept an individual item ID. Let's see if this works. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look at my Airtable docs again. And I'll go to retrieve a record. And it looks like I did have the syntax right. It's /coffee/ this record ID. I just need to give it a valid record ID. So let's grab this ID. I just had a bad test value in there basically. So let's see if I test this. Okay, cool. It was easy. So now I'm returning just one row ID, one item from my Airtable based on this row ID and I am using this, like the first item, as the test value. So that's good. And so I can change the get item. Sweet. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna, I haven't figured out what I want to do with images yet, so I'm just going to, whoops. That's kind of funny. There's no way to disconnect a data item. I'm gonna actually take a screenshot of this. There's no way to disconnect a component from data once it's been set, which is obviously not ideal. Okay, so maybe this text component we'll call the name. Why is there a dark theme set on this thing? Weird. And text, we'll just make this maybe the roast. And type. I mean, I'm kind of just like being silly here with these things, but I at least have the name, the roast, the type, and then maybe I want the rating as well. I just had kind of a crazy idea for my list view screen that I now want to go back and test, but I'm not going to do it right this second. I'm going to finish this, and then maybe if I have time, I'm going to get to it. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my list. I should really rename these screens before I get confused. And now I want to configure the touchable on each of these row items to navigate to the item view screen. And to pass, we'll just call it ID. Cool. And so now when the item ID is passed into this screen, then this fetch component should render the individual coffee item. Yeah, that should work. All right, so I'm going to, whoops. I'm going to run this on live preview. I'm getting a red screen probably because of something else in my app that's completely unrelated. So I'm just going to delete some of these things that I don't need. Whenever I get a red screen like this, what I normally try to do first is to just like delete things that are unnecessary from my app, because sometimes you'll have something on another screen that like is just not, it's not needed. I always try to check initial routes because that's always gotcha. Like I just fixed that initial route and now it's working. All right, so let's go back to my list of coffees and now let's test what I actually did set up. All right, so I do have let's see if I can show this or not. I do have the UX working of navigating from the list to the item view, but it is not passing the ID of, you can't see this because it's small and the theme dark is for some reason, I don't know why I'm getting a dark theme even though I'm not set on that. But anyway, I need to figure out why I'm not navigating to the specific item and instead I'm just still getting the fallback value of that item. My guess, well, let's see. I have a screen, ID. All right. It works fine with test values. So I'm guessing that it has something to do with the ID is not passing properly. This might be a case where I'm going to end the second straight week of live streams not really knowing what the hell to do next, and I'm going to have to ask our engineering team offline. Yeah, the shape of this JSON looks right. I guess I could test this by setting one of the text components on this screen to be like the ID, just to see what is being passed in. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so no matter what item I select from the list, it's always, the item screen is still seeing the same ID. So what does that mean? It's either bad syntax, I'm not passing the navigation parameter correctly. I am passing it correctly, then I'm not retrieving it correctly. On the item view screen. Okay, that's fine. We know where the issue is. So I'm going to find that out. I'm going to bring it to the next live stream. So for the last few minutes, I'm just going to open it up to Q&A. So I'm just going to sit here, and if anyone has any questions about Draftbit, just feel free to type them into the search, or the chat rather. Otherwise, if there aren't any questions, I'm happy to do something else. You guys just let me know. We have about 2 minutes left, so we're going to be ending this live stream soon anyway. Questions, questions, questions. Okay, so just one last reminder, if you are looking to get a free Draftbit account, just visit draftbit.com and hit request access on the home screen, and you can create your free account immediately. We're no longer running a wait list. There's no longer a need to wait for an invite. Just go to draftbit.com and start working in Draftbit immediately. I want to thank all of you for coming to this live stream. Really appreciate the questions and the comments. It means a lot to us to have you tune in every week. Please reach out to us if there's something that you would like to see us do more of differently. But otherwise, it's been a pleasure broadcasting to you today, and we will catch you same time, same place next week.